Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic Friday Roundtable Show. We record this at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, normally on every Friday. If I can rustle up a panel, and I've managed to do it again, beloved listeners and viewers, and we've got a small panel, but a powerful panel of regulars. I think in a quiet week, I've managed to rustle up some good stories, but I'll let the panel decide on my abilities there. Oh, God. So, Sally, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Certainly. My name is Sally Getch. I am the WP fangirl and also the organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup in Oakland, California. And I am here because I have opinions and cute cats.
Yes. So we love the opinions. We love the cats even more. There we go. Chris, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Yep. Thanks for having me, Jonathan. My name's Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of a WordPress plugin called Lifter LMS, which people use to create, sell, and protect engaging online courses. And if you're watching this live, we just released a blog post a few minutes ago talking about what's coming next. We've got some exciting times ahead. So you can find me at lifterlms.com. I also have a podcast for course creators called LMS Cast.
No, he's going to have a sip of water there. Right, I'll tea, coffee. John, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
John Locke of Lockdown Design and SEO, helping people with SEO all the time.
Right, before we go into our first story, I'd like to tell you something about one of our sponsors, one of our great sponsors, and that's WP Fusion. And what is WP Fusion? Well, it allows two things in your technology stack to really communicate more effectively between themselves, and that's your WordPress website and your CRM of choice, Drip, ActiveCampaign. There's a whole army of them, but you know, the name of the game in 2019 is marketing automation, and WP Fusion really puts it on steroids. It really allows your WordPress website to really communicate really deep with your choice of CRM. Now, if you're a developer power user, i.e. you've got a membership site, learning management system, WooCommerce, you should be interested in this. So go to the WP Fusion website, have a look at their packages, have a look at what they've got to offer. You're going to be blown away. And we got extra exclusively for you listeners and viewers. If you go to the WP Fusion site, buy one of their packages and use the coupon code WP-Tonic, all uppercase, you will get 25% of any of their packages, and that's exclusively only for you WP-Tonic listeners and viewers. So on to the main story. Justin Tadlock proposes idea to solve common theme issues. What did you think of this one, Sally?
I think it's a good idea. I believe that it would make the lives of both theme developers and the theme review team easier to have some of this stuff, centrally available. The technology of, do you make it libraries? Do you make it this? Do you make it that? There's, some discussion on that. I'm not sure entirely, but, one of the reasons that I use the Genesis framework to build with is because, it's got all that part done, and I just have to do the child theme. So I think anything that makes it easier for developers to create better quality code and easier for the theme review team to go through the submissions and approve them is a good thing.
All right, that's right. What do you reckon, Chris?
I think it's a great idea. Anytime standardization can be introduced so people aren't reinventing the wheel on something that's not necessarily creative or innovative, that just speeds up innovation. I mean, for example, WordPress itself standardizes a publishing process. So therefore bloggers and creators can, speed up their deployment process. So the idea of having a standard kind of admin notice system, I think is a great idea. And this is one of the things I like about Gutenberg in general, is that the concept of blocks and like the various things related to them, it kind of standardizes what plugins do, so that all these meta boxes don't look different and stuff like that. We still have a long way to go, But I think it's a great idea to move forward on, and I think it will speed up innovation, time to market, and creativity.
All right. What do you reckon, John?
Right. So I think this is a good idea. According to the article, I mean, anything is on the table. Nothing is out of bounds. Obviously, block libraries that could be a practical application, but this could be anything, from the customizer to admin styles. It could be a lot of things. And the one thing says those interested should have knowledge of Git, Composer, and object-oriented programming. So, but yeah, this is a good idea, definitely, as WordPress continues to change.
Yeah, I think also because it comes from Justin.
I am not volunteering to be team lead on that project.
No, much too wise.
Messages that say I suck at Git.
You're just wise. I would not want to do that. But and I think also it comes from Justin, and he's a very respected figure in the WordPress community. So I think something will come of it, don't you? Yeah, right. On to the next story. Mary Meeker's most important trends on the internet. So what did you reckon about this one, Chris?
There's a lot of great statistics in here. One of the ones I want to focus on is of the top 25 most valuable tech companies, 60% were founded by first or second generation immigrants. And a lot of innovation, it's making the argument that we should be careful with our immigration laws in the United States so as not to squash the innovation that happens in this country. I just find it interesting how innovators and entrepreneurship often comes out of like the struggle. And if you are an immigrant to a new country or second generation immigrant, in some ways, if you don't have your native language, there's different culture you got to figure out and all this stuff. It breeds for somebody who has like a hustle and a drive to, get through that and use that. So I just think that's a really interesting point. Also, the cost of advertising going up is happening. When I first started doing video marketing on YouTube back 10 years ago, it was so cheap. And I was using it to sell real estate, and I was able to sell some real estate double for what I bought it for at the height of the recession. And that's when I personally realized the power of video marketing. This is before I got into WordPress and tech. But the cost to do that stuff is really going up, and we're just feeling that everywhere, which is they were echoing in here. And they were also, the third thing I just want to highlight is the mention of images and video being really high traffic content types on the internet, and that's only increasing. I mean, people are more and more communicating through selfies, through emojis, through like images to kind of define their best life on Instagram or whatever. So visual communication, I think, is a very powerful skill set that people should just learn the rules of and figure out how to leverage it, and also just enjoy the process.
Right. What do you reckon, John?
Yeah, a lot of great stats here. The internet ad spending is up 22% from the year before, which is quite a bit. And most of that is going to Google and Facebook. I believe it's like 75 cents of every online ad dollar. The other thing that was interesting is that Americans are spending more time with digital media. So it's 6.3 hours a day, which is, I mean, if you take out the time that you sleep and the time that you work, that's like almost the rest of your day. It's crazy.
Yeah, I could go somewhere there.
Oh, well, I'm sure nobody in this room spends all day in front of a computer.
Yeah.
Nah, never. So what do you reckon, Sally?
There were a couple of things that struck me. First, on the immigration, the other thing that happens is people get ideas for software and they move to the United States in order to run their startups because of the reputation that we have as a country that supports entrepreneurs. I agree that we don't want to stifle that. But what struck me is like, oh no, all this privacy is going to interfere with our targeted advertising plans. Yeah, let me get out the tiny violin. But that and the the massive growth of the online gaming and the Twitch is a platform for all kinds of things that you might not have expected if you aren't following it.
Which I don't.
It's not something I really follow, but I hear just enough about it to understand that this is becoming this is really a thing. It's such a thing that because I have this fancy graphics card in my new computer, every time I open Solitaire, it asks me if I want to turn on the live streaming to Twitch. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure there's a huge audience that wants to watch me play Solitaire.
Yes. All right, on to the next story. TechCrunch, WordPress VIP Go sites experience outrage. Yes, that's included. Oh dear, TechCrunch, you get a bit sassy there. What do you reckon about this one, John?
Yeah, so apparently the VIP hosting had a bit of some downtime the other day, and a lot of these sites, they had to revert to the, what is that, the 20...
yeah, that's the 2017.
It's probably a GoDaddy account.
But yeah, I think one of these companies, it might have been TechCrunch, they were this is it. Yeah, they were running on Tumblr to kind of get the word out. But yeah, it affected a lot of sites. But it seems like they're all back to normal, so good for them.
Did we ever find out what actually happened?
I don't know.
Somebody pulled a cord out of the server or something. Probably spilled a coffee on a keyboard. Who knows? These things that maybe. What do you reckon, Chris? Got any insights about this particular story?
It's a little bit meta to say, but WordPress VIP is like a hosted solution. Just forget that it's WordPress. And I think WordPress, the self-hosted thing, has a bad rap of things going down or whatever. But the reality is, even hosted solutions go down. I mean, constantly we see issues, not in a bad way. We just kind of accept it as part of reality where Slack goes down, Help Scout goes down, Trello's down.
Right. Facebook goes down and everybody.
It happens to everybody. It's just kind of part of the deal. And the main thing, as long as the company can get it up soon as possible and not try to hide the fact, it's just a part of online these days and tech. So that's just the reality of it all these days when you have an online business and an online presence. This is why hosting companies, if you look at the fine print, they guarantee 99.9% uptime, or it's never 100%. If they say 100%,
they're not God, are they?
Oh, what?
They're not God, are they?
No, inevitably something will happen, and I'm sure WordPress VIP Go resolved this fairly quickly, but it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, the thing, and there's also, I kind of link it a little bit to, I was in a group with Lee Jackson, and hopefully he's going to come back on the show on a more regular basis in the next couple of weeks. And they were talking about hosting, and there's a trend for people to try and, as a developer, to host themselves, our services. And I just think it's a diabolical idea, folks. Don't do it. Don't be tempted. Get a hosting partnership with somebody. What do you reckon, Sally?
I have no idea why anybody who is a developer would want to do hosting.
I have no idea.
And yeah, I mean, I know people who do, but it's I never wanted to be a hosting reseller.
No,
ever.
Never, ever.
It's bad enough that I have ended up managing the Plesk installations for a couple of people who are on Media Temple.
Yeah, I bet that's joyous.
Well, it's mostly a matter of you push the update button, but and their help is helpful, but it's kind of oh, okay. So how do I install PHP 7 point, whatever? Because nobody had been maintaining these servers. It's oh, I didn't realize we had an account where you have to do that. Just shoot me now.
There we go. All right, we've got some more stories. Going to go for our break, folks. Or shall we? No, let's do the other. No, let's do the other story, and then after that.
Hey, Jonathan, take a break. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why, because I'm going to cut a promo on this.
All right, take
a break.
I'm going to take a break. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. John's intrigued me. So shall I go on to the next story, or do you want to say something?
No, the promo's on this next story.
Righto.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, God. The making of a YouTube radical. I was brainwashed. I wish Morton was with us today because I can see me getting into a real argument with him. So, John, what did you think of this one?
Right. So there's reasons why I suggested this. Obviously, look, the climate in the world, not just here in the US, but all over the place, is being influenced by social media. It's being influenced by YouTube. And a lot of people that join these extremist groups, that join white nationalist and hate groups, a lot of them say that they're being radicalized on YouTube, but people are doing it to themselves. And I want to point out a couple things here. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Higher Learning from the 90s, where the main character, or not the main character, but one of the main characters, he's a young white man. He's like a heavy metal kid, and he's disenfranchised. He's looking for an identity. He's looking for direction. And he falls in with these neo-Nazi guys. It's like people who watch these videos, I think a lot of them don't believe that they're radicalizing themselves or they're being radicalized. But if you watch this garbage day in, day out, maybe you're not getting fitted for a Hugo Boss uniform today, but you're on that path. Now, here's the thing that really distresses me. The other day, or this past week, I should say, apparently there are some people on YouTube that got demonetized that peddle in this type of hatred. And this kind of Alex Jones kind of, we're going to use racism as a way to make money. We're going to use sexism and homophobia and all this other stuff as a way to make money. And we're going to peddle like T-shirts with gay slurs and, you know, have all this racist imagery on our YouTube platforms. And I seen a few people, not just one, but a few, saying that, you know, oh, it's a, you know, tough week for content creators, you know, take care of your platform, make sure you monetize it. And I think a lot of people were, you know, in agreement with this, but I don't know that they realize the context. Some of these people, they really just are peddling racism. It's kind of like Fox News. They're peddling racism and fear and, you know, fearing the immigrants, fearing anybody who's not straight, white, male, Christian, allegedly. And it's just toxic. And I even saw some people say the vocal minority on YouTube is turning, you know, making people like do this, the vocal minority. Even in rural America, because I come from a rural town. I didn't always live in a big city. Even in rural America, this type of racist, sexist, homophobic cesspool, that's the only way I can describe it. It's garbage. Normal people do not listen to this and put this in their brain day after day. And if you put that in your brain day after day, then, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Normal people don't do it.
Well, it depends what you think.
I think I would say happy people don't do it.
Yeah, that's a good
point. Yeah, that's very observant.
I mean, you know, the thing that popped instantly into my mind looking at this was Symbionese Liberation Army. That, you know, there are a lot of people in a sort of vulnerable state, and, you know, you may have greater or lesser sympathy for why they are emotionally open to this, and they're looking for something, and you know, groups like this will give you a way to belong and a way to feel like you have value because you're defining yourself as better than these other people, and it's seductive, and you keep going. Now, if you already have strong social connections, a sense of purpose, things that you value, you're more likely to see those things and think, well, they're a little wacky. And that's all seems kind of hostile, and I'm not, I'm not going to watch more of that. But it is easy to get sucked in, and it's easier to be sucked in because of the ubiquity of the digital stuff and because of the algorithms turning up a lot of clickbait and things that are effectively toxic. And, I gave up reading the newspaper when I was in grad school because most of it was just like shit I can't do anything about that upsets me. And so it's kind of like, well, I want to know,
well, they probably wanted you to
enough
feel
about what's going on, but
probably wanted you to feel that anyway, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like, I want to know enough to know, is there a thing I can take some action on?
I've come to the conclusion that most established media wants its listeners and viewers to feel totally unpowered, totally lacking any personal power or any ability to change anything, so they become totally pliable. I think in Britain and the US, that's the main objective for almost all media.
It may be. I don't know that it's only the mainstream media that necessarily has that objective of but most of us, the place where we can make the most difference is in our immediate lives and direct connections, and that concentrating on what we can do and doing it is likely to be more useful than
thanks for that point. I want to put this to Chris. Chris, we could go on a bit of a political rant, and I've been noted to do that. Surprise, surprise, Chris. I'm sure you're shocked. But I want to get onto this because obviously this is in your area of study in a way. Do you think the actual technology element of YouTube, social media, do you think because they're new medias, they have fundamentally added something to the mix? Or do you think these tendencies have always been there and the medium, the easy access to the medium, has just shown more light to it? Or do you think the actual medium is adding a new element to the concoction?
I don't think the new media is adding anything at all. I think it's just accelerating the fact that basically, let me just back up and say, story is what makes us human. And this, whether it's a religion, a television show, a advertisement, a book, a story that our grandparents told us, a story that we overhear while traveling, stories are what make us human, and they're how we conceptualize reality. And part of the purpose of story is to help us figure out our identity. And we are having a lot of identity crises going on for several reasons. One, we have a lot of what I call olders, not elders. So our elders are not giving us the stories. We're not, like in the past, elders, we lift them up, we respect them, they lead. And now in many ways, they're kind of pushed to the side. So we don't have that. They're kind of like olders that are kind of moved away. And now we're really focusing on like the celebrity instead. And like youth instead of old is where we get our stories. And also, like Margaret Mead said, you can only perceive your own culture from the context of another, which is one of the reasons why those immigrants coming into the US have a high degree of success rate in tech startups, is because they have perspective. And they're just, they're coming to a land with more opportunity and accessibility to business and stuff like that. But their perception of reality is colored by the context of the other culture they came from, not from an online culture. So then it goes to the difference between journalism versus entertainment. So the storytelling of reporting of the facts is journalism. But what we have now, we don't have journalism anymore. We have opinion, we have entertainment. And inside that entertainment is often a hidden or overt agenda to monetize. And what do marketers do? What are salespeople taught? Agitate the problem, focus on the pain, focus on the desire. And through that agitation, you get lots of clicks, which means you get more ad revenue, affiliate income. Or when you go to a story talking about like products, if there's a lot of products in there, is that an affiliate marketer doing good journalism? Or is that an affiliate marketer that is out to gain themselves by telling the story that will cause the most clicks and cause the most revenue to flow into the pocket? So there's a lot going on in this, but
yeah,
here,
in a way, I was kind of taken back to the start of the 20th century, with yellow reporting, as it was called. The tabloid papers that were established in America at that time,
like the Inquirer.
Yeah, Hearst,
well, there was Victorian era was wonderful for tabloid production. They do predate modern industry, but
yeah, but you could even go back in the 17th century in London, before the war, before America left, had its war of independence. In 17th century London, there was an enormous craft tradesman. And when you read the pamphlets and the booklets that were distributed and the flux of ideas and comments, it makes today's commentary look mild. And like I say, get back to Hearst, fundamentally, what I've read of his yellow journalism and the style, it was a major driver in driving America to become a colonial power in the Philippines, the war with Spain, the war in Cuba. Some commentators directly say that those media elements were main drivers in making America a more colonial and aggressive power. So I'm not sure, but on the same thing, some of these, Stefan, when it become, actually of this group, Stefan, I'm the most critical of. I cannot stand the man. I can't even listen to him anymore. Paul Joseph Watson is, these are, in London we would call them shit stirrers. That's fundamentally their trade. What do you reckon, John? Do you think there's actually something new, or do you think it's just the old kind of new technology, but the message is quite old, really?
The message is old, and whenever there's turbulence, whenever there's radical change happening, people get fearful and they cling to. Basically, that's when you see authoritarianism rise. People want a strong man to lead. That's why you see what's happening in the US,
the Dutcher,
the UK. You see it happening in Australia. You see it happening all these different places. People are uncertain, but social media, YouTube.
No, I actually disagree with you there, actually, John.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to strongly disagree. I don't think that's the case at all, actually. I think
people are uncertain.
No, I think they're financially under strain, and everything is driven by money. Biology. No, I shouldn't say that.
Let's look at who's the real criminals. You know what I mean? Not like our fellow people that are, one step below us. Let's look at the people who are like, have 10,000 times, like 100,000 times the money that we'll ever see in our lifetime.
Well, I don't think it's even that in some ways. You know, I'm not that bothered by somebody making a load of money.
Well, okay.
I'm bothered.
No, but I think John's point is that, you know, the agitation happens among people who are certainly not financially insecure.
Yeah. I suggested that
to it because of that.
Yeah.
But it's not created by that.
Yeah.
The reason why, and like I said, to close on this, the reason why I suggested this story, I think that, I mean, at least I feel, human beings, if we see right and wrong, we have a duty to call it out.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, I here in Sacramento, I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting 2 years ago where the sheriff of Sacramento County was basically suggesting to a crowd of older people that we should get rid of the homeless people and the immigrants. Get rid of. So that's what I'm saying. That's where this kind of talk leads. It doesn't start. It starts with talk. And that's why I'm saying I'm saying I'm going to push back on talk like that because I think it's garbage. Hate talk is not acceptable in my world. Sorry.
No, I looked at this and I decided I wasn't until you suggested we discuss this. I had looked at the story and I was personally interested in it, but I had got pushed back by some of the panel for choosing. But I am interested. I think just to finish this and move on to the next story. Basically, I think we've come to the conclusion that it's not the technology platform that's causing something new. It's fundamentally these issues are very old, and the technology is just an amplifier to things, attitudes, opinions. Basically, I think we came under the delusion that you can pass laws, and passing laws, they do help, but they don't change people's hearts.
Well, having laws basically gives you a recourse after a thing happens.
Exactly.
It does not necessarily prevent it from happening because most of the people who obey laws are already not doing these things.
Well, unfortunately, yeah. And, you know, also the financial consequences, or, you know, it acts as a depressor. Right, let's go.
Actually, there have been a lot of studies that basically show punishment does not act as a deterrent to crime because people don't think they're going to get caught.
Exactly. Thank you for that. All right, on to the next one. Oh God. This is another one from John. This picture featuring 15 tech men and 2 women looked doctored. The women were photoshopped in. I don't know who to choose. Oh, you want to comment on this, Sally?
As the experienced token woman, I think it's silly. Really, it's like, you know,
it's so it really is pathetic, isn't it?
It's sort of trivial. It seems like the women were along. They somehow didn't notice they weren't in the picture. I don't know. Maybe they asked them to take the photo and then realized the optics were bad. But it just like, all right, look, it's the taking the women out of the pictures.
Yeah, but it's bad Photoshop as well, isn't it?
You know, as issues that are, you know, truly damaging to women go, this thing is not noticeable.
I think the Stalin in the 1930s did better photoshopping without Photoshop than this. What do you reckon, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're at a party or you're commemorating an event and like the camera person or somebody just was in the bathroom or something and didn't make it in the shot and you put them in. So it's all about the motivation behind putting them in. And what does that mean? So like, what's the meaning behind that? I have to just throw that question out there and just share a very small story. When I was a senior in high school, I wasn't very ambitious in what I was trying to do. So I signed up for sewing class. If you were to line up the class, I would be the only guy standing there, but that's fine. So what? Like, I guess like there's 2 layers is like, what's the reason for photoshopping? And then what is the gender imbalance? Like, what does that mean in this context? I don't have an answer. I'm just saying this is
Right.
how
Does
we
it,
discuss
you know,
it.
does it matter more that there were only 2 women in the group than that they did or did not get into the picture? And, you know, do we care that much about, you know, a bunch of rich people taking a trip to see a designer?
Yeah, I don't know. Did they, what do you reckon? Did you put this one, John? I didn't read it all. Did he actually say why they did this at all, John?
Well, this is like in Italy, right?
Oh, well, that explains.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
I don't know. We should. That was funny. You'd say.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's always a long way to go. You know, I just, you know, it is. They obviously knew that the optics were bad. Otherwise, they wouldn't have photoshopped it. They wouldn't even bothered. You know, let's continue to lift up, you know, people that we see underrepresented that are very capable, because I know that there's many capable women that could run circles around me as far as like development. So let's continue to lift them up.
Yeah, sure. All right, on to the next one. All right, Google will stop syncing files between Drive and Photos. And the reason why I kind of introduced this one, because it doesn't seem that important, but to me, it's a kind of warning when people rely on SaaS, because at some stage, because you know, on my phone, I've got limited iPhones are notorious for having small storage capacity unless you go for the really expensive one. So I use Google Photos to move my photos to Drive. Basically, it's one of the main reasons why I use it. And I was a bit peeved off when I read this, buddy, but it's typical of a large company. What do you reckon, Chris? What do you reckon about this story?
It actually reminds me of iPhoto and then the Photos app. And there was a period where, I mean, I'm a longtime Apple user, and I did everything in iPhoto, and then all of a sudden this parallel thing showed up with Photos. And then I saw like less technical people coming into the Apple world and having trouble, like, what's the difference? How do these things work together? And then all of a sudden iPhoto disappeared off the operating system. There has to be like an upgrade path. If you're going to take something away, you gotta solve the problem in a better way and make the transition better. And I think it's a huge issue that I actually think about a lot, like in terms of curation, especially images now. Like if you think generationally, like what your kids are going to look at. If you're older, you remember like perhaps like your great grandparents or grandparents or whatever, there's like maybe as big at a big size, like a trunk full of like actual photos and like maybe several albums. But now the photo stack is just massive. Like I think there's not like a solution, and we're not really thinking about what happens when like our descendants want to go back and look at our images. It's like,
They have a lot to look at, aren't they?
We don't want to lose that.
I don't have any descendants.
Yeah. Or society, whoever, like when they come back to look at this person and their digital footprint, we need a way to curate all this stuff. And like you're saying, Jonathan, you don't have enough space on your iPhone. It's just, we need to figure out this whole curation thing and, you know, helping people manage photos better with less friction. It's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, but this is a typical Google. Yeah, less than me. What do you reckon about this one?
Google, you know, stuff disappears often, and it sounds like they were attempting to, or at least they're saying that, you know, they were attempting to deal with complaints people had about duplication or confusion or whatever. And I don't know, it seems at least equally confusing what they've done. And I'm trying to figure out how all this stuff goes because, you know, I've only owned a smartphone for a couple of months.
Oh yeah, you're virgin to this.
Yeah, I'm very new, and it's, you know, and it's got like a Google Photos thing, and it's got like then the sort of like native Motorola Photos thing, and it's got like Amazon Photos, and it's like, where the heck is all this stuff? Just trying to figure it out, and then tell it yes, store it on the memory card, and not on the, you know.
Well, at least you got. At least you're obviously your Android. Obviously.
Yes.
Well, at least you got a memory card. Oh, you're not going to respond to that?
Well, I mean, you know, I wanted an unlocked phone that was not tied to a plan, and I haven't got the money to pay for an iPhone out of pocket.
No. No, well, you made a wise decision. You know, what do you reckon, John? Well, you're muted, I think,
Yeah.
John.
Oh, I don't know. I don't really have too many thoughts. I mean, I get confused like with iPhoto and that, much less like Google Photo and Drive. If I really want something, I'll just save it in Dropbox. That's it. So.
Well, yeah, that's why I keep both, because they have made Google Drive a bit easier to use, but you can still have permission nightmares, and like hour and a half later, you're still flapping around and you think, oh, sod it, let's bun it into Dropbox. Well, they increased the price of my Dropbox, though, by $20 a year, but they did double the storage. So, but I thought it was just kind of be wary. That's the nice thing about WordPress, isn't it, Chris? You know, with a SaaS product, it can be appealing, and then suddenly they change the terms and conditions, don't they? And it's not so attractive, is it, Chris?
That's right. This happened to me. Just a quick story. When my first child was born, I wasn't really into WordPress, and I started a image blog to share baby pictures on a platform called Posterous.
I remember that.
And then it shut down. It looked like there was some drama between the founders. I'm like, these are all my baby pictures. And it seemed like one of the founders started something else called Post Haven, which I still have to this day, and it's how we share photos, all over the place. But I just remember getting shut down on, and with some very important photos that I was relying on the cloud, and luckily they provided a way to import into this other service, and there was like a lifeline, but that was kind of we were lucky that existed.
Right. Oh dear. There we go. Right. So let's go on to our recommendations of the week. And I've been looking at a kind of pop-up replacement on my website called, what is it called? It's called Contactually. I've been messing around. I haven't got it fully set up to go on my own website, but you can generate more custom bolts, and it's really quite, and they offer a free account. So if that sounds interesting, go to continue, it'll be in the show notes, .ly. So it's Contactually. Yeah, it's very, very, it's got that kind of modern use of a domain name. It's very interesting. John, have you got anything you want to recommend to the listeners and viewers?
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel that's been on my radar. A young man out of the Midwest, Brendan Hufford. He's the head of marketing at Click Studios. And I'll put the link in there, but he's currently doing a series called 100 Days of SEO. So he's right in the middle of that. I'll put the link in there, but definitely if you're looking for a SEO YouTube channel to follow, besides myself,
cool.
You could definitely follow him. So
there we go. Chris, have you got anything you want to share with the listeners and viewers?
Yeah, I also just interviewed Brendan on my podcast, LMS Cast. He's a smart, sharp guy. But my tip is I have a chat tool that I really like called Drift. And they recently released something called Drift Video, which makes it even easier to put video into your conversational marketing flow. So go check that out at drift.com/video.
Yeah, I'm oscillating between them and this Contactually. But actually, I think if I can sort out the custom bolt this weekend, I probably will be taking theirs out and use Contactually. But they're both fantastic. Sally, got anything you want to share with the listeners and viewers?
Yes, my tip for this week is that ACF Theme Code Pro now supports ACF blocks. So if you are somebody who likes the idea of, using advanced custom fields to create blocks, but you want to save some time in writing the code for your block templates as a result, this will now generate that code for you, and you can just, copy and paste it into your theme or plugin as appropriate.
Yeah, do post that in the chat. I know you put it in our Slack channel, but the other two have posted in chat, so if you can post that in chat.
Not a problem.
It will save me a few seconds. All right, I think we've got, we're all in agreement with a lot of these stories, but I think I found some interesting stuff for us to discuss. Sally, how can people find out more about you and what you're up to?
You can find me at WPFangirl.com. You can find me on Twitter as @SallyGetch, and you can find my cats on Instagram under my profile.
Meow, meow. Chris, how can people find more about you, what you're up to, and your company?
You can find me over at lifterlms.com. I also have a podcast for course creators called LMS Cast. And if you're watching this live or on the podcast listening to, go to the Lifter LMS blog. We're announcing 5 new products rolling out for your WordPress LMS. One is groups. One is custom fields for Lifter LMS. Another one is a Zapier integration. Another is a advanced video functionality, the likes of which WordPress has never seen, and an incredible REST API for developers who are building out or mobile apps with their course platforms or wanting
Y'all
to
have been busy.
develop a bunch of other stuff that integrates with Lifter. So check out that blog post at blog.lifterlms.com.
He's been in that cave. Old Chris doesn't let him out. He's seen daylight for a year, probably. He's just got a big bushy beard now. Right. John, how do people find out more about you and your ideas and what you're up to?
Right. You can find me at my website, lockdownseo.com. You can also check out my YouTube, publishing daily. Go on YouTube, search hashtag #LockdownSEO. You will find me.
That's great. And we'll see you next week, folks, where we have another great panel, some good stories, and hopefully some good discussion. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.